Hey, it's Matt. This is Fantasy Football Almost Daily. Before we begin, I have a challenge for you. Wherever you are listening, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, even YouTube, please make sure that you are subscribing or following us. We have had some fairly big things that are on the docket coming up on this podcast feed in the next month, and I don't want any of you to miss out. If you could, leave us a 5-star rating where you are consuming this as well. Today's show is sponsored by GameBlazers, where fantasy football meets mobile gaming. It's like Madden Ultimate Team, but for fantasy football with real cash prizes, including this week's record-setting $75,000 in prizes during midseason madness. I don't know if it's the most cash they'll ever award, but it's the most they ever have till this point. Contests are free to play with lineups set from your own inventory. Use promo code FFAD for a one-time deposit match of up to $100. And if you complete registration, you not only get a free starter pack, but you can also get 2 rare packs for just $5. Download the GameBlazers app today. And at Fanball, you can play against real players, not algorithms. For instance, the Peacock gives you a shot at $1,000 each week. And if you play against 199 people who have a max entry limit of 6, you're not trying to beat a group of fantasy players who have stuffed 150, 300, 450 or more lineups into $1 million contest. You have a chance to win. It's the better way to play fantasy. Check out the lobby now at fanball.com. Let's kick things off with music.
From the Sports Hub Games Network, this is Fantasy Football Almost Daily with your host, Matt Harrison.
Music, Scott. Music.
Yeah. I like the old intro.
I miss Less Than Jake, but I'm kind of battling right now with our podcast hosting platform on what is fair use music and what is not fair use music. And
we had full permission to use that song too. That's the annoying part.
Yeah, it's a bot. They're not listening to me. They're not reading the emails I send back to them. So that part's frustrating. But you know what's not frustrating? This week's Waiver Wire. It's chock full of goodness. And with me today, a favorite of Fantasy Football Weekly and our Tuesday pod, it's Scott Fish. And Scott, you and I were on the Fantasy Football Weekly radio show this last week, and we are, again, a partnership this week. We kind of nailed it last week. I felt really good about my selections, especially in Take a Chance on Me, where I had Flacco, Isaiah Davis, and Troy Franklin all had great days. How about you?
Mine also hit, I will say, well, my running back and wide receiver hit. My quarterback did not hit because my quarterback was Michael Penix, who then got ruled out and Kirk Cousins played. So
you did have a premature speculation on Gunnar Helm, and he scored a touchdown, right?
I had a C grade on Gunnar Helm.
Oh, okay.
I mentioned him.
We don't have him in the podcast this week, but he's kind of a sneaky guy to pick up, especially in dynasty leagues. I think he's going to be a little undervalued. Maybe not ready for the masses in redraft leagues, but somebody to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's check out the relevant NFL news from around the league.
News team, assemble!
Haven't yet told me I can't use Ron Burgundy on the podcast. So
good.
Cam Scattaboo had successful ankle surgery, but he is out for the remainder of the year. They're hopeful that he's back and ready for camp next year. Saquon Barkley reportedly okay after a groin tweak. Philly's on bye this week, so we got that going for us. Quinshon Judkins, day-to-day with an AC joint sprain. Browns also have a Week 9 bye, so that's good for the Judkins owners who are feeling a little scared right now. Rico Dowdle might be in line for more work, according to Dave Canales, which I kind of think that everybody's hoping to see since Dowdle was the Dowdler and all over the place a couple weeks ago. The Saints won't yet announce their starting quarterback for this week. Ooh, is it going to be Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck against the Rams?
I think if you take the best parts of Spencer Rattler and the best parts of Tyler Shuck, you would get Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck.
And it's still a bench player in all likelihood. The Vikings will announce their starting quarterback for this week. It's J.J. McCarthy, as Carson Wentz done for the season with a shoulder injury on his non-throwing shoulder that will require surgery. And Scott, why was Carson Wentz playing the last 2 or 3 weeks?
I think they didn't want to put Brosmer in that situation. I think that Carson Wentz is a veteran and wanted to play and said he could go and play through it. And I think that J.J. McCarthy just wasn't fully ready, and they didn't want to put him out there not fully ready. I think this screams more to Carson Wentz as just being a gamer and a team guy, and wanted to be that guy and be out there.
I'm a little nervous about my boy McCarthy here.
It might have been a situation too with Carson Wentz that the doctors they cleared him to play, but not like obviously he wasn't healthy. Where it might have been a situation where they said, "Well, you're not going to make it worse. Once McCarthy's ready, you can go get surgery."
Yeah, and they also probably told him, "Don't throw left-handed."
Yeah, exactly.
So, Bryce Young day-to-day with an ankle injury. Puka Nacua looks like he's going to come back this week against the Saints. That's nice to hear. The Cardinals randomly released Michael Carter, and we're going to talk a little bit more about him later in the show. And Tyler Lockett, a reunion with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith as he joins the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't have Tyler Lockett on my list of guys to pick up this week, but their wide receiver room is kind of funky, so I could see Tyler Lockett being a factor there.
Yeah, I could see that. I wouldn't spend any fab on him though.
All right, we're going to switch to waiver wire time now. And one of the songs they told me I couldn't play was the disco music, Scott. So I'll just make some like that.
That's
there we go.
Terrible.
Oh God. Yeah. So I'll try to find some fair use disco music that I can play for you coming up soon. But it's a really busy week on the waiver wire. And I'm just going to talk a couple of quarterbacks really quickly, mostly because I saw a couple of these guys trending on Sleeper, and their ownership percentage was really low. Real quickly, Sam Darnold, 27% owned. He's coming off a bye. I think people just dropped him during the bye week, but Washington this week is a good matchup. Yep,
absolutely. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say on the quarterbacks you have listed, but Sam Darnold, good matchup. He's a lot of these guys are good streamers. You might get lucky and get more than streaming out of him. Darnold's been good this year.
In Superflex leagues, these guys all should be rostered. Kyler Murray was 54% rostered on Sleeper. He missed the last few weeks, and they're coming off a bye as well. And they play Monday night in Dallas, which is about the best matchup you can hope for.
Can't get better. That's perfect.
CJ Stroud, 49% rostered on Sleeper. He went 30 of 39 for 318 yards and 2 scores against San Francisco last week. That was his best game of the season. That was the best he's looked since his rookie year almost. But Denver this week is a very tough test.
Yeah, he looked like the CJ of old, making quick decisions and acting on them. It feels like he's been panicked a lot by a terrible line and just constant pressure. He looked like the CJ Stroud we know and love, which from years ago, which tells me once they fix that line, CJ Stroud should be a decent quarterback pick. So that line is something for us to watch, in future fantasy years, hopefully next year.
Finally, Tyler Shuck. Aw, shucks. Came in relief of Rattler last week and threw the ball 30 times. He was 17 for 30, 128 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, added 12 yards on the ground. The Rams this week on the road is not a great place for Shuck if he were to get his first start in the league. That's not a great place to start. What kind of league do you have to be in, Scott, for you to roster Tyler Shuck?
A 32-team league where each team has one team quarterback and someone has to play Saints quarterback.
So you already had him on your roster?
No, I don't think you're starting Tyler Shuck.
All right. Running back bonanza this week. This is the most running backs I think I've ever seen on a waiver wire show. And we're going to start with the Giants running backs. Tyrone Tracy at 41% rostered. Devin Singletary at 1. Tracy's going to be the lead back. Singletary will be the change of pace guy. It was 12 touches to 3 in the game last week, and Scattaboo went out early. Niners this week is a decent matchup. They were ran on a little bit, and I think you can pick up and start Tracy with a pretty good load of confidence this week.
Yeah, in routes run, it was 17-4 as well on routes run. So Tracy really had that job. Tracy at the end of last season we had 60 plus yards in all but one game. He had a couple 100-yard games. He scored like 5 times in the final 8 games. He knows how to be the starter. You got to remember with Tracy, he's only played running back for 2 years now. So he was a college wide receiver, so he's got those pass catching skills, and he'll be the one they turn to first. Devin Singletary is an interesting like $0 or $1 stash, because anytime you shuffle a running back room, maybe Tracy gets the first shot, but maybe Singletary works in, or they split, or he takes it. You never know. So it's worth adding them both, but Tracy's the number one with a bullet you probably need to get this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Pollard reportedly on the trade block. So Tyjae Spears at 41% rostered. Yeah. He looks like he's back and fully healthy from his early season injury. He outsnapped Pollard last week. They had the same amount of touches, 12 apiece, but Spears had 82 combo yards and a score last week. And it feels like Spears is going to just continually to eat into Pollard's workload. Yep. And I mean, if the Titans could get anything for Tony Pollard right now, I think they'd take it.
Yeah, I think all of that is fair. I mean, I would temper expectations just a little bit. That offense is terrible. They don't get a whole lot of red zone opportunities. The reception, the receiving touchdown, a little fluky. Probably should have been tackled well before that. I like Tyjae Spears, and I agree he should probably overtake the 1A. He's played 3 full games. He was limited that first game, but in the 3 full games, he's outsnapped, outtouched, and outproduced Pollard. So I like it either way. You should probably pick him up either way, but if Pollard gets traded, then he's going to be flex worthy most weeks.
Yeah. Devin Neal is 7% rostered, and Kendre Miller, we know, is gone for the season, the Beetlejuice rule. And Alvin Kamara left the game after landing hard on his knee, and that's his left knee, and he was already dealing with a left ankle injury, so he's basically a peg leg guy right now. The Rams are the best run defense in the league, and that's the opponent this week. They've only allowed 1 touchdown to running backs this year, but there's an opportunity here for Devin Neal in future games that are not week 9.
No, not this week. This is a speculative ad that we've talked about before on this show. I think it's one of those, we have to see it first. You should have him on the end of your roster for $0 or $1. And you need to see him actually getting that Kendre Miller 10 touches before you can actually trust it. Or get some news on Kamara's injury.
Yeah, that's true as well. There's not very many running backs left in Nolans, so I think that Devin Neal has an opportunity there in front of him. Dylan Sampson is 11% rostered, and if Quinshon Judkins can't go when he gets back off that AC joint sprain, I think Sampson gets a pretty good increase in touches in week 10, like we saw in week 1.
Yeah. It's probably that week 1-2-ish usage where he was the clear guy over Jerome Ford, and he was the pass catching work guy. So you get those catch upside. I'm just not super fearful of Judkins, his injury, and also getting a full extra week with the bye to recover. I think he'll be fine. So I wouldn't. And even if he's not fine, I think you're looking at maybe him being out 1 week at the most. So I wouldn't unload the hopper or whatever for Dylan Sampson.
Absolutely. Ollie Gordon, whose name has a skateboard trick in it, he's 13% rostered. Devon Kickflip Achan has been the only regular fantasy starter for the Dolphins, but Ollie Gordon had 11 touches, 66 yards, and a score last week. Achane had 23 touches in that game, by the way.
Yeah.
And it was the one time the Dolphins are going to blow out an opponent this year. Worth noting, Jalen Wright also had 10 touches in this game. But I know that you like Ollie Gordon. What can you tell me more about him?
I do. I know he had a receiving score in this game. It's not really his game. He kind of leaked out on that one. But he's more of a straight line guy. He gets goal line work. He's had 10 plus touches in several games now since the coaching staff and even Devon Achane said himself, we want this to be a split, so they want to keep Achane healthy. They want it to be a split where Gordon is getting that 10 plus touches, which makes him a viable pickup, and especially on bye weeks and with injuries, a start. I think the reason this is so running back laden is we're starting to see players get dinged up. And we talk about it every year right about this time. Pick up all the backup running backs that you can afford because you never know when one of them might hit.
Let's talk about a couple of these backup running backs. The next two are maybe the best two handcuffs in the league right now. Tank Bigsby at 33% roster. And don't tell Charch this, but he's totally right. The eye test on Tank Bigsby is fantastic.
It is.
Saquon said he tweaked his groin, but it was something he can play through. And they have a bye week this week. But if Bigsby is forced into a lot of action, he looks good, and he might be the top handcuff in the league right now.
Yep. And even Saquon, like last year when he was going to, break his career single game high, he's like, nah, let the others eat. Like, he's definitely a team player. And I can see a situation where this very playoff team Eagles, get into leads in games or they can just rest Saquon more because they don't need to play him as much. They want to save him for the playoffs. I can see a lot of situations where Tank Bigsby continues to get work going forward.
Yeah, it might have some flex startability in good matchups later in the season. Other top handcuff, Emmanuel Wilson. I think that he actually does have some flex startability this week. He actually just looked way better than Josh Jacobs on Sunday night. 14 touches and 87 combo yards. By the way, Jacobs had 16 touches in that game. He had 45 yards and a score. So it was almost an even split in that one. And it just feels like eye test, the mileage on Jacobs may be adding up a little bit here. He has had 15 of the last 16 games he's played, he's scored a touchdown in. And I think that the Packers really want to keep that streak alive, but I think Emmanuel Wilson is staring down the Panthers this week and their terrible run defense. And I think Emmanuel Wilson is startable, and I think I already claimed him for my Take a Chance on Me runner for this weekend's Fantasy Football Weekly show.
Yeah. I think you're right on all of that. He looks the part. He's looked good as well. And just like the Eagles, this is a really good Packers team that would probably stand to it would probably benefit them to split with Jacobs a little bit and keep him healthy. Jacobs has had a lot of run over not just the last year and a half with the Packers, but he got a ton of carries his last 2 years with Oakland. So he's got a lot of miles on those legs.
Zonovan Bam Knight, 18% rostered, was on a bye last week. And during that time, the Cardinals were like, hey, let's cut our other running back. So they cut Michael Carter. So it's him and Amari DeMarcado. Zonovan / Bam is the first string runner on a team for at least a few more weeks until Trey Benson gets back. And then Dallas and San Francisco in 2 of the next 3 weeks are very positive matchups. I think that if he's available in your league, you can go grab him, and you got a starter for at least 2 weeks out of the next 3.
Yeah, if not more. Like Trey Benson's original expected date back was week 10, which gives you another week or 2. But they haven't opened a practice window or anything. I searched the last couple of days. I'm like, have the Cardinals released any information on Trey Benson and potentially coming back? Any beat reporters, anything? There's really nothing. They're just
it's crickets.
Yeah, it's crickets. And so I think Bam Knight, like you mentioned, we're going to get a couple very, very, very startable weeks here. That's why I think he's probably worthy of decent fab if he's available. He's got the clear role now because Amari DiMercado's role really hasn't changed. It's just Michael Carter flipped to Bam Knight over the last 2 weeks, and we're going to get a couple more weeks at least of Bam Knight.
Isaiah Davis, 16% rostered. He was my take a chance on me runner last week. Only got 7 carries. That's so sad. But had 65 yards on those 7 carries. Yeah. And then he had 5 receptions for 44 yards. Granted, it was Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is one of the worst run defenses in the league, if not the worst. Bye this week. Tough matchups out of the bye in Cleveland and New England. But then they get Baltimore and Miami in 2 of the next 3 after that. And Scott, I've heard that there's a few rumors about Breece Hall maybe being on the trade block as well.
Yeah, I mean, though there were some before the season, and of course, this time of year, these kind of things start to ramp up. It's a 1-7 team, much like trade rumors with Pollard and Kamara over the last couple of weeks. That Kamara said, "No, I'm gonna go to Acapulco and drink pina coladas or something like that."
I think you have margaritas in Acapulco.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but similar with Breece Hall, and it does make sense. He's staring down the barrel of potential. I think he's up for a new contract here. What, next year? Would it maybe even this offseason? So on a team that's out of it this year and needs to refresh, it would make sense if some team brings the right offer. But like you said, it's tough sledding right now, and I'm not even sure Isaiah Davis is the full-fledged starter, and it's a bad offense if it happens. So it's a stash kind of situation.
Yeah. All right, that was a big group of running backs. So I got a couple of wide receivers here. Let's start with Christian Watson, who's 11% rostered, 4 catches for 85 yards in his first game back, and he looked better than maybe I'd ever seen him play in that game against Pittsburgh on Sunday night. Only problem here, he's competing for touches with so many people. Dobbs and Golden, they're on the field almost all the time. They also like Savion Williams. Dontavian Wicks was hurt last week, and Jaden Reed is going to come back in the not-too-distant future. Yeah. And, by the way, Tucker Kraft is also in the mix. So pick your poison on the Green Bay receivers, because outside of Tucker Kraft, I think it's just a crapshoot every week.
I agree. If there's one that I'd probably want, it's Watson out of that grouping, but it's Kraft. And Love has proven consistently, and LaFleur as well, they have no problem just spreading the ball around, except for Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft gets his, but they have no problem spreading the ball around to whatever is open among those other wide receivers. I think that's a fair point.
Every fantasy owner is like, cram it up your cram hole, LaFleur.
Yeah,
just over and over again. Troy Franklin, 38% rostered. One of my better take a chance on me calls in the last 13 years of radio. Led the team in targets last week with 8, caught 6 for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. I guaranteed 1 touchdown and maybe 2 on Fantasy Football Weekly last week, and pimped him in my deep sleeper portion of the Fantasy Football Almost Daily Thursday pod with Trevor. He was only 4,000 on Fanball. He delivered for you. He led the Broncos wide receiver room in fantasy points in 3 games. That's the same amount of weeks that Cortland Sutton has led the team in fantasy points. So he's kind of right there with Cortland Sutton right now.
Yep. He's just it's not unlike Mims was for the last 6 games of last year, where he was right neck and neck with Sutton statistically. It's just Bo Nix's college roommate Troy Franklin has overtaken that role. That was an incredible call by you, and I do think it's going to continue. I think it's of note that he hadn't topped like 45 or 50 yards for 3 weeks before that breakout game last week, but he's had other good games this year, and statistically, he's getting a lot of 5 to 8 targets every game. So it's
also easy to pick on Dallas and their secondary.
True.
So
true.
Chimere DK. I think I'm pronouncing that right. How did I do, Scott?
Yep, Chimere DK. Yep.
All right, 11% rostered. Had 7 catches for 93 yards on 8 targets last week, but Ridley was still out. Io Manor also had 8 targets, Randomly, so did Van Jefferson.
I know.
Which was crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I don't want anything to do with the Titans wide receivers at all. I've had Io Manor in a couple of leagues, and I'm just like, the volume is okay, but the quality of the passes and everything that they've done, it just hasn't been there from Cam Ward. So in my couple of redraft leagues, I've already dropped Io Manor and let somebody else pick him up.
Yeah, I mentioned last week on Fantasy Football Weekly that DK was a dart throw for me because I thought it was a good matchup and spot for him. He did well. Io Manor, his unrealized air yards every week and his uncatchable targets are so high. Like Ward just can't seem to hit him, but he keeps trying. I don't know. One of these days, I hope it'll come together. Maybe it needs I don't know. One of these days, I hope it comes together, but
we don't know what it needs. It needs something.
Yeah. We need Ward to just, actually hit him in the numbers a little bit or in the hands, whatever.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
And then all the Texans wide receivers, since Nico Collins and Christian Kirk were out, they all had a decent day. Xavier Hutchinson, 4% rostered. Jaden Higgins, 24% rostered. Jalen Knoll, 13% rostered. I mean, I wouldn't recommend starting any of them this week against Denver, but Jacksonville and Tennessee the following 2 weeks are kind of interesting. But here's my recommendation. I think that you don't pick up any of them, and somebody will in your league. But I think that person also drops them next week, and you have an extra week of just kind of looking at snap counts, looking at target share, because after that, there's some decent matchups against Jacksonville and Tennessee the following 2 weeks. I like that, but I just am going to wait for somebody else to pick him up, and they can waste him during the bad weeks.
Yeah, you have to imagine Nico, if he's not back this week from the concussion, he'll be back the following week. Christian Kirk, when he comes back, I mean, there's a chance Jalen Noel takes his job in the slot. Xavier Hutchinson is out on the other side, and he's playing all the time. He's on the field a ton. But you're absolutely right. I'm probably not touching any of these. I would need Kirk and Nico to both miss this week. And then then it might be Noel, who played the lowest amount of snaps, but he would avoid Patrick Surtain and Riley Ross. So he's the only one that I could consider against Denver, and that requires 2 players also remaining out.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess down there. Let's go to the tight end position. I'm lumping these 2 tight ends together because they're both pretty good, and they're both on bye this week. Mason Taylor, 27% rostered, and Harold Fannin, 56% rostered. They're not on the same team. They're both on bye. Taylor might see Garrett Wilson come back in week 10. And of the 2, I think Fannin's definitely the preferred option if you can wait a week for a tight end. Upcoming schedule for Fannin, super nice. Jets, Ravens, Raiders, 49ers, Titans, and Bears. And none of those guys are stoppers in the way of Fannin.
Yeah. Fannin is the one I like most of all the tight ends you have listed. I think he's legitimate even when Njoku plays. Naturally, that's them both playing is going to limit it, but they throw to their tight end a decent amount. Dylan Gabriel has no trouble throwing a lot of passes, and almost all of them are short. He's got one of the lowest ADOTs, if not the lowest ADOT of all starting quarterbacks. So I like Fannin going forward. I want to correct myself on the last bit there. I think and you can check the tape, I think I might have said Riley Ross quickly instead of Riley Moss. It's Riley Moss. I threw an alliteration double R in there. I know who it is. I know his name.
I don't think anybody's picking up Riley Moss or Riley Ross. So
Riley Moss, defensive back on the other side of Sertan and Denver. I was pretty sure I said it wrong, so I wanted to correct myself.
You're kind of like Scooby-Doo there.
I think that, Riley Ross, Mason Taylor and Colston Loveland. Yeah, the spot starts. I'm a Mason Taylor fan. I've had him on rosters all year. But we're looking at a lot of spot starts in these tight ends.
And Colston Loveland's the last guy that we're going to mention. I think you pick him up and you start him this week against the Bengals. Cole Kmet out last week with a back injury. Loveland got all 5 of the tight end targets, and the Bengals are the worst tight end defense in the league. They've given up 10 touchdowns to tight end so far this year.
Yep. I'm making him take a chance on me tight end.
No, I'm going to make him take a chance on me, tight end.
Dang it.
Well, Charch has that matchup, so I gave Charch the option first. So
I see.
And he should take him, but
he should.
I don't know. Fish, who are your top 5 waiver wire pickups this week? And maybe in order. You want to go from 5 to 1 or 1 to 5?
I'm going all 5. You want me to go all 5?
Sure, go all 5.
Boy, just looking at this list, I think it's got to be. I'll go 1 to 5 though. I think Tracy's the one with the bullet this week, probably. On this list, I should check his rostership, but Fannon's probably 2 for me because I like a good long-term tight end. Tight end's such a crapshoot. Bam Knight's probably 3 because he's probably going to be, a lead starting 15 touch guy for a few weeks. You know what? I might just go. I'm going to go Gordon next. Ollie Gordon next. I think he's going to be 10 plus touches a lot of weeks. Maybe the Miami Dolphins offense has figured itself out, but then they get the Ravens who are now healthy on Thursday night. I think it's just probably not. And then lastly, I think I'll go with your boy Franklin just to make you happy. I had Bigsby there. But Troy Franklin should be decently consistent. And I love what Bo Nix in that offense is doing right now. So I'll take the wide receiver 2 in Denver.
All right. That was perfect, Scott. We have so many fantasy helpers this week on the Waiver Wire show that I think that you can kind of rebuild your roster a little bit. And if you are one to make trades, today's a good day to make a few trades and maybe clear up a couple of roster spots if you can on your bench and go pick up a few of these guys that can be helpers this week.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Scott, for all your insights. I'll see you on Fantasy Football Weekly again on Friday. And please play free weekly fantasy football contests for real cash prizes over at GameBlazers. Use that promo code FFAD for a $100 deposit match and get ready for $75,000 in prizes this week during Midseason Madness. This was Fantasy Football Almost Daily, and we will see you tomorrow, maybe.
This was Fantasy Football Almost Daily. Please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts.